I didn't want that to become who I am, like the guy who lost his wife and he's just stuck in that space. So I know for honoring her, I think it was, to put in the work and attack grief, like I've been saying, is to honor her and just move forward and, continue with life.
Welcome to Impact and Fulfillment with Coach Mike D, where you'll gain practical wisdom and dynamic insight from amazing conversations to live your best life. What's going on, y'all? This is Coach Mike D with another episode of Impact and Fulfillment. And I got a special one for you today. This is actually a repeat. Like if you go back to episode 317, I had a conversation with a brother, Staff Sergeant John Thurmond. Like, this is my cousin, this is my dog, this is my dude, right? But we talked about a very sensitive subject back in episode 317. Unfortunately, he dealt with the loss of his wife, and it was a very recent thing, but he wanted to share and talk about his process as a part of like his therapy, when this thing happened. Fast forward about 18 months, he and I chat all the time, and we were talking the other day, and he talked about his process, and he mentioned the concept attacking grief. He said, I had to attack my grief over this time frame so that I could get to the place that I am today. And I was like, ooh, brother, we need to come back on and talk about that and talk about what attacking grief looks like, where you are now, some of the things you have going on, and just kind of use this as a platform to really help others attack the grief that they have in their own life. So I'm going to introduce to some and present to others my guy, Staff Sergeant. Right now, Staff Sergeant, he about to get promoted in another. He might talk about that too. He about to get promoted to another position in the military. But my man, my cousin, John Thurmond. What's up, brother?
What's going on, man?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Can't complain at all, man. I'm in a good space right now. So, doing good. Yep.
That's what's up, man. How the kids doing? All the kids well?
Yeah, everybody's well, man. Everybody's well, thriving and getting big. So they keep me busy. So everybody doing good. Yep.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up, man. Yeah, you're doing good, man. You're looking good. You're sounding good, man. I appreciate it. I'm proud of you, dude. I'm proud of you. Psych. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, what you dealt with 18 months now, right?
Yep.
18 months ago to where you are now, and it's still a continuous process.
Oh yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
So speaking of that, man, go ahead and just jump in and talk to us about, what happened, how things have gone on, and how you personally have been working through and attacking grief.
I think initially the first time we spoke, it was more so, I believe at that point in time, kind of looking back, I was still numb to kind of what was going on. We spoke early on after Brianna had passed. So it was kind of, I knew what I was going through, knew what my family and I was going through and her family stuff. But I feel like I was still in the early stages of it because I was still numb to exactly what had happened. And I can't lie, man, for me, it got really tough. It got really, really bad, and also too, I leaned on a lot of people, of course yourself, my friends, other family members that kind of, that were there, I had to lean on them heavy, and also, being in therapy, and just seeking out people because, I can't take what's the word I'm looking for? I guess I can't take the credit for, getting through it. I leaned on a lot of people, prayer, obviously. But I think for me, just the biggest thing was I knew that it was going to be an uphill climb dealing with that because I've never experienced death before. Somebody close to me and then having to be my wife. It was something that I knew that was going to be an uphill climb, something I had to, like I've said before, I had to attack it. But it's still a work in progress, obviously. And it's not instead of having stretches of time where it's days or weeks where I'm feeling cloudy or grief, it's more so just certain parts throughout the day where I intensely miss her or and stuff like that. But it's for something as a loss like that, it's always gonna be a part of me. Obviously, it's always gonna be something that's there. But I think just working through it, continuously working through it, and putting in the work to get through it, I think that's the most important part.
And again, we mentioned the term attack grief. And the
Mhm.
reason that stood out to me is because, you're a soldier, right? And, you all get deployed and you're on missions. And, as men, when we hear the concept attack, it's
Mhm.
like we finna go handle
Yeah.
business. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like
Yeah.
if we get orders to go, no questions asked, we go. Like when we played football back in the day, it's like, hey, it's time to attack. They do not cross this line of scrimmage. We
Yeah.
go and attack it. But I thought about that as a man, but then
Mhm.
I also thought about it through the lens of grief, because when we think about grief, we typically think about sadness, we think about like soft, right?
Yeah.
But in the mind of a man, the concept of attacking this
Mhm.
thing, which is sad and supposed to be soft, like tactically, what
Mhm.
did that look like in your experience?
Yeah, so for me, I actually adopted that mindset from a guy. He's in my unit. He lost his wife August of 2022. So it was before Bria had passed, but my therapist had got me in contact with him, and me and him spoke for briefly, and that's how he said he approached it. And for me, it kind of made sense, just kind of because grief is something that can consume you just like anything else can. And I knew early on, I said I can't fall into something like alcoholism. I can't fall into any kind of vices because I knew people would make an excuse for it because man, this dude just lost his wife. So I understand. And I know I didn't have that luxury because I did have the girls, I did have responsibilities, I did have, a job, I did have a lot of stuff on my plate that I couldn't just fall into, certain things. So I made it a point to adopt that mindset and just attack it. Whether I don't know what that looked like, going to therapy, talking to people, praying, just anything. Attacking grief doesn't necessarily, like you said, from a tactical or a violent mindset. More so is just putting in the work to get through it. And
Mm,
that's the like I said, that's the mindset that I adapted and just kind of just, working through it. Because like we said, like I said before, when the first time we spoke, some people make grief their entire personality. And
mm,
and that's something I struggled with early on because I knew that, the people that were there in the beginning, they weren't going to be there, at least all of them. And I knew that, I know people have their own lives, they had their own issues, but I knew at some point it was going to be me myself dealing with it. From a internal standpoint, when the girls go to bed or everybody's dealing with their own thing, I'm the one that's faced with, and that's something I got to deal with and I got to work through. And I knew early on that's something I kind of just stuck in my mind. It's like when that time comes, when the some of the friends and family are gone, people stop checking up on you as much. That's something I'm gonna have to face, and that's something that that I had to do.
mm. It's interesting. As you made a quote there, you said some make grief their entire personality.
Yeah.
And I think that's extremely powerful. And the thing that's challenging about it is, and you said it just a few minutes ago, that because of what you've gone through, most people would make excuses and be like, well, look what he went through.
Yeah.
I understand why he did this, or I understand
Mhm.
why he did that. And if you allow grief to become your personality, you'll fall into the trap of making excuses for that as well.
Right.
And that's how we can blink and somebody has a 10, 15, 20-year battle with some form of addiction,
Mhm.
because not just themselves, but their circle allows them to go down this pathway because they're like, well, look what he's struggling with.
Right.
But that person initially allowed grief to become their personality.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think one thing, because I've been to support groups, I've been to I like the more intimate therapy sessions, like I have my own therapist, but
Mm-hmm.
I've been to those support groups before, and it's something that kind of like struck me is that like I said before, some people kind of just malinger in those environments, and it's not conducive with healing, if
Mm-hmm.
I could say that, and that's another thing too that I struggled with before is also like I would struggle with having a good day. I'll feel bad for if I had a moment where I was laughing, if I enjoyed something. And I knew at some point in time, I had to. I don't like using the term "move on" because I'll never move on from Bree, but
Mm-hmm.
more so it's moving forward. And I feel like that's one part too, like the legacy that I want to leave for her and for the girls and stuff like that. I want to remember her as who she was as a lively, beautiful, happy person. I feel like if I was stuck in that, it won't be honoring her.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one thing I struggled too. I didn't want people to believe or think I didn't love her or whatever the case may be. People gonna have their opinions or thoughts, but I think that's one thing I struggle with moving forward and not. embracing the good days, embracing the happy moments, and stuff like that. And I think when I say people make that their personality, they get so caught up in the attention they could possibly get,
Mm.
or people constantly checking in on them and stuff like that. And that's one thing I didn't really, at least from a man's perspective, I think is different, especially for us going through it and kind of lost like that. Um, I think it's just different from that aspect. And I know I didn't want that to become who I am, like the guy who lost his wife and he's just
Mm.
stuck in that space. So I know for honoring her, I think it was, to put in the work and attack grief, like I've been saying, is to honor her and just move forward and, continue with life.
Man, dude, so you said a lot, and it makes me think about the concept of being intentional, right?
Yeah.
And when I think about attack, I'm thinking you're acting, not reacting.
Hmm.
Okay. So if I act, then I, in essence, set the frame of reference. I, in essence, create the environment, the culture that we're gonna rock and roll with versus me reading the room and just reacting to what's there, right?
Right.
It's the thermostat versus the thermometer.
Hmm.
Thermometer reads it, the thermostat controls the temperature.
Exactly.
By me attacking grief, you control the temperature. And it also leads to, there's an age old quote that says an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure,
Mm.
right? So by you attacking it, you're in essence digging your well before you're thirsty, and you're attacking the grief so that when things come, because again, there will be moments in which you're going to have challenges or whatnot,
Right.
but you've done the work on a preventative side to
Hmm.
help guard against the backside of it. And you also brought something up about like some of the groups that you were in. And this is a thing that's interesting, even about therapy. Like
Hmm.
when you look at studies, I think like 75% of initial therapist or initial therapist patient relationships are like not a match. And a lot
Yeah.
of people stop there as opposed to going and finding a therapist or a
Hmm.
group that works for them. Because,
Yeah.
like you said, you went to certain groups that really weren't in alignment with who you are,
Yeah.
right? You start this,
Yeah.
this loop of things, and it's just like that's not conducive to who you are. A
Yeah.
lot of people don't realize that is like dating. It's just like if y'all aren't a match, you don't just say, I'm never dating again. You're like, no, this ain't gonna work here, but you move on
Yeah.
and find somebody that you're in alignment with. So
Right.
I'm glad that you shared that.
Yeah. I think that's important too because before Brie had passed, it was it was a lot. I'll just put it like that. It was a lot, kind of, with towards the end, the therapy set, not the her therapy sessions, and her in and out of the hospital, and I could feel myself getting to a point to where I needed something to really, I don't want to call it stress, because it was a lot, and I think, I met with my therapist literally the day after Bria had passed. My unit had reached out to me, and they put me in contact with a therapist and a psychiatrist. They really did everything to make sure I was in a good space.
Mhm.
And um, and I think from that moment on, I knew that was something like that I needed, because talking for me throughout this whole thing, talking has really helped me a lot. And I've never really been a talkative person. I'm really, by nature, a laid back dude. But given that things I've been through, talking about it has really helped me a lot. And I've gotten to a space now to where, being able to talk about Bree makes me, it's kind of like talking about her and how, our relationship, how we met and that type of stuff. That actually, it helps me out a lot. Whereas before it was kind of like I shied away from it.
Mhm.
But I think, for me, like I said, talking and just finding that right fit, I like the intimate kind of the one-on-one type deal where I can, talk to my therapist about how I'm feeling, how things are going. And it's really helped me out a lot. So,
I love
yeah.
that, man. And it's like, but it's the notion of finding what works for you
Hmm.
and having the courage to realize that if this don't work for me, I need to find something else, but I know
Yeah.
I need it,
Yeah.
right? And I think
Hmm.
that's a message for a lot of people across the board, not just in therapy, but just in life in
Yeah.
general. It's like this job. It's like some people just say, forget it. I'm just going to accept this job for the next 30 years. I'm going to blink and then retire.
Yeah.
But you're going to suffer for the next 30 years and you know you don't need to be there,
Yeah. All
right?
right. Yeah.
Versus, yo, I'm going to make some changes, get some more
Mhm.
training, get some more skills, some more education, whatever I need to do so that
Yeah.
I can create an opportunity for me to be in a better position.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
exactly.
saying? So I
Yeah.
think your lesson applies not just to grief and to therapy, but to also freaking life, man.
Hmm. Yeah. For sure. For sure. And I think also, just to right fit, like be not for everybody. There's no one size fits all dealing with to put it in the work and finding your right fit is what's most important because this grief isn't linear. It's not and that's one thing that I had to realize so that my therapist had to teach me, because I wanted to just get through it. Like, all right, I'm tired of feeling like this. I'm tired of, the lack of sleep, just anything. And I just kind of want to get through it. But grief isn't something you just start and then you finish. It's not linear. You can have your ups. You can have a period of time where you're up here. You have a period of time where you're down. And that's one thing I had to. I had to embrace the ups and embrace the downs, and get too high on myself or too low. And that's one thing I had to understand as well too. I got hard on myself too in the beginning because it was I was just frustrated with feeling how I felt, if that makes sense. And I just wanted to kind of just get through it. But I know I had to take a step back and just kind of embrace the journey, for lack of better terms, and kind of just accept what happened, accept that Bree's not coming back. And I think that's one of the things that I really, really, really struggle with because of kind of how the dynamic of our marriage and how so many things are going right at one time. Like I said before, first time we spoke, we had just bought a house. Just got her career was thriving. The kids were growing. It was just so many things were going right. And then that happened. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that processing that, was something I had to kind of work through as well. And that's kind of the tough spot I hit, kind of making sense of something that doesn't make sense and that probably will never make sense. So yeah, just getting through that and understanding like, all right, this is what happened. This is what it is. All right, now you can either willow in it and let it be your demise, I guess, for lack of better terms, but also, all right, understand, all right, I got to move forward. And now I got, these little girls to take care of. I got a career I have to, focus on, and I just couldn't stay stuck in that spot. So that's where attacking grief and attacking that is what, that was where that came from,
And it's interesting. It's the concept of, you mentioned grief is not linear, right? Mm-hmm. And even though you attack it, that doesn't mean that it's going to be a quick solution. Right. It's like, you're in the military, so y'all might attack or have a strategy on something. That doesn't mean that the solution is going to be quick. Yeah. But we're taking quick, decisive action. The results might take some time. And those are things we might have to work through. Those are things we have to continually kind of maneuver around. And I think that's extremely important. Like, and then the other part to it is you said something about making sense of what happens. But as I heard you talk, it is probably less making sense and more of acceptance.
Exactly. Yeah.
And because I think that's something that's challenging, because there are a lot of things in life that literally just don't make sense.
Like, yeah, and that's why I said it never it never will. What happened will never make sense from an earthly standpoint. Mm-hmm. How humans are. In my mind, it will never make sense. Mm-hmm. And if I feel from a spiritual standpoint, like I've said before, I Bree was here. She did her job on Earth. Mm-hmm. She did everything she wanted to. And like I said, God told her, all right, it's your time to come home. That's kind of from the spiritual aspect. That's how I think of it. But from my selfish standpoint, I'm thinking I want my wife here. I want the girl's mother here. So that's something I had to kind of, the flesh was fighting my spiritual side. And like I said, that's something I really, really had to work on. And like I said, I never at one point was I angry at God or whatever like that, but I did question it. I was like, what's the purpose of it? I looked at it from a purpose standpoint. All right, what's the purpose of me, meeting Bree, everything had to line perfect for us to even meet, us starting a family, us, doing everything we did in a short amount of time, and then for it to just stop. Like, what's the purpose behind that? And trying to make sense of it. But I think over the last 18 months, I think I've done, with the help of obviously, family, friends, prayer, therapy, I think kind of where I'm at now and the mindset I have now, I think the purpose of everything was to, use this situation or this journey to help other people. Because that's one thing that was on my heart too early on. Is like, how can I use whatever I'm going through to help other people? Mm-hmm. So I think, and that's the whole point of starting this, getting her foundation off the ground. That's the whole concept of, doing, and I do things behind the scenes too. Like we can talk about that offline, but help kids or help whatever, just give them like something to help people, and I think kind of where I'm at now.
Hmm. And you said something. I think I'm gonna go back to that, not making sense of it, but I'm learning to accept it.
Hmm.
Like that, I think that's one of the hardest things for us to deal with is things not making sense, but learning to accept them anyway. And but that's the peace from like a spiritual perspective. Like that's the peace that surpasses understanding is like when I learn to accept what is and I trust that even though I might not like it, I might not want it, I might not feel like it's best, I trust that this happens for a reason and this is
Hmm.
best. um it's like freeing, you know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Hmm.
And but again, it still ain't gonna make sense.
Yeah.
And I gotta like disconnect that part of my brain that's trying to make sense of something that just don't
Yeah.
add up,
Yeah.
and just accept so that I can effectively go forward and do all that I'm supposed to do now.
Hmm.
And so that's powerful, dude.
Yeah. And it's hard. It's hard because I remember just for a long period of time too, like I was like just struggling with that, just like finding out a reason. And but I think like I said before, just kind of accepting it, accepting the fact that, she was placed here to do what she needed to do, and God called her home. And she blessed us with, Rosie and Ramsey, obviously. It's funny because they both have different parts of her in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just kind of watching them continue to grow, it's a blessing within itself. But obviously, it's tough sometimes, obviously, because physically I want her here to be able to witness it, but I know she's in spirit, she's here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just kind of slowly accepting it has allowed me to move forward and enjoy, start to enjoy life a little bit more, go out places and not feel guilty or bad about it. Have a good day and not feel guilty or bad about it. Laugh at something and not feel guilty or bad about it. And there's are some things that I would like to have experience with her, but I think me living life, me moving forward with life, I feel like that honors her. And that's one thing. Also, when it comes to acceptance, that's one thing I had to accept too. That it's okay to you don't have to feel bad for, for moving forward, having a good day. That's because at the end of the day, that's honoring her. And I feel like if I was that guy who was, an alcoholic now or just whatever, I feel like that would be not honor her. So I think doing that and is what I'm here for, helping people, keeping her legacy, keeping her name alive, and me continuing on. And, like I said, I'm about to be a warrant officer soon. So thriving in my career, I feel like that's honoring her in a way. So there's a lot of things that I feel like, that's that goes to the acceptance part. I think I feel like right now, 18 months, since she's passed away, I think I'm zipping fine in that. So I think that's one thing I'm happy about.
Man, I'm so proud of you, dude.
Yeah, I appreciate
Seriously,
it, man.
seriously, man. This concept of attacking grief,
Yeah.
attacking grief. So if a person's listening to this right now, I hope that you can learn something from John's story, right? His tribute to Bree, right? His tribute to his kids and his intentionality behind attacking grief so that he can be the best version of himself to carry whatever it is he's called to do in his life
Mhm.
forward because that honors her, that honors everybody that he comes into contact with, that also honors anybody who hears anything about his story because this thing is designed to help other people. So, brother, I'm proud of you, man.
And back to the attacking part, it doesn't necessarily have to be anything with losing a loved one. Like
Mhm.
it could be anything, anything somebody's dealing with. Like just look at that from a perspective, And I also adopted the mindset where, I'm blessed enough to be in a position to where a lot of things that some people have to worry about, I don't. And
Mhm.
that's, I talked to my dad about this. It could always be worse. And I know sometimes that might not be the proper way to think about things, but, I look at it like I could be in a situation to where I didn't have help. My mother-in-law, she's here helping out. My mom's here, I can call up my sisters, my dad, I have people to lean on. And I think when I do get in a space where it's kind of like, when I feel overwhelmed, I'm like, all right, let me take a step back and think like, all right, Yes, I lost my wife. Yes, we were only married for a short amount of time. We had two little girls. But at the same time, I think about how God has blessed us, how, the help I have, the people I can lean on, the resources I have. So um that's one thing that keeps me grounded as well too. It could be worse. And that's kind of, and I think that plays into the mindset of how a man thinks sometimes too. But I think just keeping the forefront that even in spite of what I'm dealing with, I'm blessed, my family's blessed, we're blessed. And that's one thing that I feel like if you just keep that mindset as well too, it gets better. It might not, you know, I'll say it gets easier, if that makes sense. As time goes on, it doesn't necessarily get better, but it gets easier. And that's one thing to hold on to, that no matter what you're dealing with, loss of a loved one or divorce, sickness, whatever the case may be, loss of job, whatever, that it gets easier. So that's one thing I could say too, and attack it. That's not from a violent standpoint. That's more so getting in front of it and understanding, all right, this is the situation I'm dealing with. This is my circumstance. This is all that together, but just knowing, all right, let me get in front of it, accept it for what it is, and just put in the work.
Accept it for what it is, put in the work, attack it. Because on the other side, it helps you to get to a point of gratitude, which opens you up to fully be able to accept that thing and move forward in the proper way. Brother, this man, come on now. I told you, you got some skills. I told you this on our first conversation. Like, brother, you got some communicative skills that need to be unleashed more to the public. So maybe that's something we'll be working on the back end. Because yeah, man, this is some good stuff, man. And I'm proud of you, man. Love you. Keep up the good work. Anything you want to share? Anything, because I know you mentioned the foundation. I don't know what's going.
Yeah. So with that, so before this, I know the school year in North Carolina, the school year start, and a lot of stuff I try to keep under wraps. I don't, until I get it up and running. So I picked out a kid in my neighborhood who needed sneakers. So I have a lot of sneakers in my upstairs in my room. I have sneakers at work. I have sneakers everywhere. So I said, you know what? Let me bless somebody, and I gave 10 pair away to a kid who needed some. So little stuff like that I've been doing, but for the foundation itself, I want to, like I said, with the first time we spoke, I wanted to start off with, helping a single family in need, or, a scholarship foundation in Bree's name, something, like I said, to keep her legacy going. And then eventually I want to get to a point to where we can help multiple families, whether it's, with, a stipend because they need to pay their rent or something for the month, or a stipend they need to buy groceries, something where we can help people. But right now it's kind of like at a grassroots level. So if I see a teenager in need, reach out to me and I try to help them in some kind of way. But right now we can support, one family, and then big enough to where we can support multiple families in any kind of way.
Okay. And then you're in the process of getting all the stuff together to
So she does have so it is a Facebook page for us, the Brianna Thurmond Warrior Foundation. They do have a Facebook page. Right now, I'm going to use that for now to send out information. But right now, it's still in the works. So just be on the lookout for that.
Absolutely, we'll keep it in the loop. And once everything drops, you let us know. We'll make sure to send links out to promo and all of that stuff. But man, like I said, as always, I'm super proud of you, brother. Keep up the good work. We'll be in conversation. Actually,
for sure.
Come down there. Probably see you in a few days.
But
anyway, but as always, y'all make sure to continue to follow Impact and Fulfillment. Share this thing out. Attack it. Whatever that thing is, attack it, because your benefit's on the other side of that. But you must attack it. You have to be intentional, be willing, be able, but just attack it. It's worth it. All right. Well, thanks to my guy, current Staff Sergeant John Thurmond, but about to be warrant officer John Thurmond in the very near future. And until next time, y'all be blessed, well, and wise. And I'll holla at you. All right. I really hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and follow Coach Mike D everywhere on social media. Y'all be blessed, well, and wise.